1, 2, 3, 4, let's go.
It's Heartbeat.
It's a fabulous show.
Alaska.
Hi, Heartbeat Alaska.
It's Heartbeat. Alaska.
Pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hear it from Sitka to Barrow. Gather around for Jeannie's show. It's the Aleut, the Indian and the Eskimo. It's the Aleut, the Indian and the Eskimo.
Welcome one, welcome all.
Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska Native News and Information. I'm Jeannie Green. Thank you once again for joining us. Today we travel to a part of Alaska that I've heard about since I was a child. I was born in Sitka, but my parents are from what we call up north. My dad was born in Teller, Alaska, and my mother was born in Deering because her father, Tony Haugen, traveled throughout Alaska as a teacher. As a child, well actually as a young teenager, my mother, when she was 14 years old, was going to school in White Mountain up in northwest Alaska. And they took a field trip on a boat and went to Golovin. And when I was a child in Sitka, we would hear stories about traveling from village to village and berry picking and the people. And today we take you to one of those villages, to Golovin, Alaska. We celebrate the 4th of July with them. We learn about the people there. What a wonderful show. I'll be back with Golovin right after this.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail?
It's raining in the streets of Golovin, yet the townspeople are celebrating a national holiday as if the sun was shining bright.
You mark, get set, go!
This attitude says much about the residents of Golovin. They're tenacious.
Yay, no! Hey, Irene!
And fun-loving.
Welcome, Judy.
One of the favorite programs for everybody here is Heartbeat Alaska. Hello, Jeannie Green.
It's the Aleut, the Indian and the Eskimo.
The Inupiaq people of the Northwest have a history of following what nature would bring during the seasons of the years. In the summer, they would go to fish camp. Golovin is one of those settlements that seems to have been occupied from season to season, back decade to decade to decade. It's a village with a history. Golovin was originally the Eskimo village of Chinook, where Kawaramute Eskimos lived and later mixed with Unagalamute Eskimos. The Chinook Eskimo tribe is federally recognized, and 92.4% of the community is either native or part native.
Before the gold rush days back in the 1800s and 1900s, there was no Golovin. This was just a campsite. And the families and the people used to live wherever the game was during the spring and the summer and the fall.
The town was named for Captain Vasily Golovinin of the Russian Navy in 1887 and was a supply point for the goldfields at Council. But what really matters is the history of the townspeople themselves.
During the 1950s, 40s and 50s, Alaska Airlines was a bush carrier. So the past few years I started carving out of tree bark. Some of these airplanes were built in the 1930s and 40s. So these were the original Alaska Airlines aircraft. This one was a Pilgrim, we called it a Pilgrim. Mainly used to haul cargo and passengers. This was a Norseman, built about 1939, a great cargo plane. And then along came a Golovin, a Stinson Golovin. It was a faster airplane, but they used those to haul passengers. To be different, I carved a beaver and decided to put it on floats. Farther over here, we have Olson Air Service. Martin L. Olson began his airline with a Taylorcraft Piper Super Cub, a good private airplane for the bush. And this one is another one from 1939. Richard Foster, Senator Foster's dad, had her. That was my first airplane ride, was in one of those, from here to Nome. And then this one is a Piper Pacer, another airplane that Martin L. Olson owned. As far as I know, it's still flying. So, and then also along came Munns Northern Airlines during the 60s. They had the first twin-engine bush plane was the Islander, they called, and that carried about 8 people. So, an Islander. We had mail service twice a week from Munns Northern Airlines. And so we often traveled to Nome for holidays or 4th of July or something, and fare was about $15. The wood comes from the beaches we collect after a storm, and this is cottonwood bark. I don't know where these things drift in from, but they are easy to carve. It's a softwood tree bark, and they dry up easily. But I varnish them or spray them with Krylon, and they'll last forever now. They're part of history. I can remember back about 1949 when there was only a row of houses down here, and now is the whole village.
Tom Punguk, who has been a resident of Golovin all his life, stands above the town on Eagle Rock and talks to us about the history of his town.
About 1964, 63, the state came in with the first housing program, and they built the Asha houses. And it just happened to be that summer, all the men were out commercial fishing. So the first housing project here was mainly built by women, which was something else. So some of the original houses are still standing. We call them Asha houses. The original town of Golovin originally was a row of houses from back here all the way to the point, all the way to here. Due to lack of students, the BIA school closed down. So we had to move to White Mountain where I could attend school, and some of the other kids had to attend school. So we all moved to White Mountain, and Golovin became a ghost town, except for one family or two families who had no children. They lived here. So my papa and I moved to White Mountain every fall so I could attend grade school. And then when the school was out in the spring, we all moved back to Golovin. So there was actually about 20 people still living here. And every summer, everybody moved up to the fish camp, which is about 6 miles up through the beach, 4 miles straight. And I was the only kid left in Golovin. Every other day I would walk up to camp by myself to be with kids. And it was nothing. It was just part of the everyday life. I watered the dogs, the dog team, I fed them. Then I finished my chores and walked up to camp. 1974, I built that boat. I'm actually the first guy around that put a cabin on a boat. I actually built it out of pallet lumber and dunnage plywood, and we got very good use out of it. In 1966, I think, we built 14 other boats for the fishermen. Me and another guy built. These boats were pre-cut in Seward, but we put them together in the fish plant, and they were our fishing boats for years. Over there is what remains of the house I grew up in. My nephew lived there, and he was filling his gas lamp while it was lit, and he burned the house down. Right this side of those wild rhubarbs, my wife and I had built our original house from a cache, but that was our first house. And while we were out camping, picking berries one summer, it mysteriously burned down. So I bought lumber from Nome, about $400 worth of 2x4s. Martin Olson brought them down free with the barge. And the fish co-op donated the plywood, so my wife and I went to work and built ourselves a house. And she and I put the walls together laying down. And I was working on our washateria at the same time. So I told the crew, let's go put up my walls. So the crew came up and put up our walls for us. And we had our roof on in one day. Oh, they used to fly fish from Moses Point to here so we could process it. And they would land here with a plane load of fish. And oftentimes those airplanes were loaded, probably overloaded, and they took the whole runway to land. AYK Fisheries went bankrupt, and they closed on all those salmon canneries. And the Small Business Administration put a lien on the properties. So our local fishermen organized into a fish cooperative, and I was one of the board members. We organized, borrowed money from the SBA or the government, and purchased a plant from the SBA. So the fishermen owned the plant, the village owned the plant, and we operated fine until 1977. So the SBA, Small Business Administration, came in and put a lien on the property. And after about 20 years, they didn't want to have the responsibility of, maintaining the place as it was. So I got a bright idea and wrote a letter to the SBA and made an offer. A couple of weeks later, I received a letter saying, sold. So somebody, I hope, will have a vision and open this plant someday and put people to work, put our fishermen back in business. Maybe the fishing industry is not dead. Right now, crabbing is being developed out in the Norton Sound area. There are crabbers here now, and they go about 40 miles directly straight out to get their commercial crabbing. And hopefully with the CDQ program, halibut fishing may be developed out here. And also I've been told that there are tons and tons of shrimp waiting to be harvested out in our Norton Bay area.
Although the fishery is now an empty warehouse, the residents of Golovin hope that someday it can be reopened and bring more money to the town. The present-day economy consists of mostly subsistence lifestyle that is supplemented by commercial fishing and crabbing. Charles Saccheus Jr. from Elam travels the 32 miles or so to Golovin to ply his trade at commercial crabbing.
This is herring here. What we use for crabbing. We buy them from the fish plant in Nome. We fill these up here like this. takes a lot of bait for one. I think the more bait you use, the more crab you get. Maybe that's the trick, huh? Yeah, we just put them in here like this.
So basically they're the same.
Yeah, there's.
One's plastic, one's mesh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
See, there's we got a lot of sea lice out there that. See, if I had only this, and I hang it up in a crab pot, and I have trouble or something, I can't make my pots for about a week or longer. By the time I get out there, all those bugs, they'll eat all this herring here. They'll eat all the herring, and there'll be no more bait in the pot. And in other words, this one here, the bugs, they can't get into these there's little holes here where the scent comes out. The bugs can't get into there, and that way they work longer. But in 2 day soaks, these are better. These are better because they give off more scent. I'm here for the commercial crabbing, July 1st to September 1st.
So why do you come here to do your crabbing?
Because it's a little closer to the crabbing grounds, and we have a safer harbor. See, like the south wind, low south wind, it would be common here. And if I go anchor out in Elam, south wind, it'd be pretty rough. We'd have to stay with the boat all the time in Elam, because we don't know when the weather will get bad, or got to watch the weather all the time. Getting a lot of competition out there right now. There's a lot of crabbers. And the quota's small, and the quota's being caught a lot faster now compared to 8 years ago. Nowadays we have a lot of crabbers out here, locals in this area, Norton Sound area. There's a lot of locals. They come out. It's good that we have locals here though that are crabbing on the waters out here.
How about the price?
It's kind of low right now, but it's going up every year by about a quarter. There's a boat out here, 41-foot boat that buys our crab, and he brings them to Nome. But if we deliver to this boat out here in Rocky Point, he'll pay $2.50 a pound. But if on our own, if we want to go deliver to Nome, they'll be buying it to Nome for $3. So in other words, we're paying for our fuel for the our tender out here to deliver the crab to Nome.
When asked about why he makes a living the way he does, Charles puts it simply.
I enjoy it. I enjoy being out in the ocean, making a living in the ocean. That's what I enjoy.
Back in town, the 4th of July celebrations have begun.
What did you do? Go!
Take one step back.
There will be games and food and prizes.
I'm gonna try to win this one.
So happy 4th of July. 4th of July.
We were in Golovin on 4th of July. It was also a time for a family reunion. What a way to celebrate in one of the most beautiful villages of the North.
Our loving and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you for your loving kindness and your grace.
Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. God bless America and all the veterans.
And finally, it's time to eat.
Birthday, Toby.
Potato salad. Potato salad.
No.
You make sure you save me some of that potato sauce there, Tom.
Oh yeah, can't miss the potato sauce.
After everyone has eaten their fill, they gather around outside for a raffle and door prize contest. The anticipation mounts as the numbers are called out.
That's for 9636.
It's July 5th and everybody's headed up to fish camp. The residents of Golovin have slept well and are ready to party. The tables are brimming with good native food. As people arrive, they set off to do whatever they can to help with the preparations. These ladies are preparing whale meat in the traditional native way.
What I brought up was that pail of dried fish that's soaked in seal oil.
Biggest fish there was. It's very good too.
My grandson, he sent me all that walrus skin, you know, they call it goak. Cut up muktuk, and they even had a boiled salmon head with the eggs in it, and just a lot of Eskimo food. The reason why we started this family reunion, my mother, you know, raised us here, summertime fishing, drying fish. We had over 100 people here, that, you know, family, and a lot of them were good friends that came and celebrated the family reunion with us. So we decided to have another one this year.
It's just a good gathering of people, you know, the family members that you don't see. Of course, me being married now into the family, you know, I've met a lot of them, but only see them very briefly. And of course, this year was just one big gathering where we were all able to visit with each other. And of course, with all the newborns here as well, too. I mean, that was all adding to the family.
Music flows through the gathering. Musicians from all over sit around the fire and play a variety of instruments. The songs they sing are good old-fashioned gospel. The music can be heard throughout the camp. It brings with it feelings of goodwill and understanding. Why is it that the people of Golovin are so kind-hearted?
I guess the way we were raised.
There aren't many times a year when Alaskans can swim, and we take full advantage of these warm summer months. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you everyone in Golovin, Alaska, the Chinook Eskimo Village, for helping us get to Golovin and do this story. Thank you Norton Sound Economic Development Corporation for making this story possible as well. And hello to Maggie, one of my mom's friends that lives in Golovin. Goodbye to all of you. God bless you. And thank you for joining me. We'll see you again next week for Iliamna, Alaska.
That's okay. I don't even remember the first one.
Good morning.